beauty in Italy, I tell you. There were a team of 12 of us went over there to basically conduct a VBS for a week while their missionary parents had a conference. This was a conference of missionaries with TEAM, if you've ever heard of TEAM. About 135 missionaries, and we took care of their kids for them for a week so they could do their thing. It was great. Thank you very much for the privilege of standing here, being part of this event. I admire Laura as well as she admires me, and I appreciate being considered one of her friends. As she said, I am the state director for the Convention of States in Mississippi. Is there anyone in here who does not know what the Convention of States is basically about? Good, no hands. I'm glad to see no hands. If you're like me, you probably have had, maybe for a decade or more, questions like, what has happened to my country? What has happened? Why doesn't our federal government work anymore? Why do I hear the disturbing news that I hear that is just so antithetical to what I've always thought to be true of the United States government? How did our national debt double in 8 years? How are we looking at $21 trillion of debt? Why is everything I buy made in China? Troublesome questions. Where are the statesmen who keep their promises? It's not like it once was. It's not like it ought to be. I and we are convinced that Washington, the establishment, is broken. It's dysfunctional. It's out of control. And there is the very real temptation to worry that things might be so far gone that they might not be recoverable, that we might have passed some tipping point. We have big problems, and they are many and they are scary. But I'm here to give you some good news, and that is that we have, as our tagline says, a solution as big as the problem. The problem is ginormous in many metrics that you might use to measure it. But we have a solution as big as the problem because our solution is a constitutional solution, the solution of a convention of the states. It is found in our original Constitution, and it's been in there since September of 1787, when the Constitution was enacted. Specifically, it's found in Article 5, which defines 2 ways that our Constitution may be amended. One way, and the process by which all 27 of our current amendments on our Constitution got there, is the way you probably all could reel off to me a vote of 2/3 majority of both houses of Congress, and then sent to the states for ratification by 3/4 of the states. That's how all 27 of our amendments were enacted. They originated in Congress and were ratified by the states. It's not well understood or well known that in 1787, before the Constitution was enacted, by the way, trivia question, when is Constitution Day? When was our Constitution signed? Anyone know?
September 17th.
September 17th. Who got that? Good for you. September 17th was the signing date of our Constitution in 1787. James Madison's notes disclose that some couple of weeks before that date, the Constitution had effectively been drafted, and yet there was one of the founders present for that convention in Philadelphia who said, in essence, and I'm paraphrasing, I think we have a problem that we need to address before we sign this thing. Colonel George Mason of Virginia said, with respect to Article 5, there's only one way that the Constitution can be amended, and that is by the action of Congress. And he asked, is it reasonable, again paraphrasing, is it reasonable to expect that in some future generation, when this federal government that we're devising here today in 1787 should have become out of control, corrupt, even tyrannical, is it reasonable to expect that that future government would ever, in any meaningful way, relinquish power back to the states? Of course, the question was an obvious question, it had an obvious answer. The answer is no. It's not reasonable to expect that will ever happen. Given the fallen nature of man, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's a proverb you all learned somewhere probably. Madison's notes indicate that George Mason's language, it was just a clause that he inserted into the sentence that is Article 5 of our Constitution, adding the possibility of a second method of amending the Constitution through a convention of states. Madison's notes document that that proposal was accepted unanimously and without debate. And I will remind you, if you aren't aware, they debated everything to pieces back in that time. Very critical. It was so sensible, it made so much sense that it was adopted unanimously and without debate. So, since 1787, there's been the possibility of a convention of the states to amend the Constitution, an amending convention. But, see, let me find, I got ahead of myself. Under Article 5, a convention of the states is called when 2/3 of the states apply to the Congress for a convention of the states to amend the Constitution, asking to do so for the same reason, the same purpose. So there has to be something the lawyers call aggregation. All of the states have to ask the Congress to call a convention for the same reason. And 2/3 of 50 states is 34 states. And that's where we are in the process of trying to acquire 34 state applications. 12 have done so thus far. And there's a map on that door over there, and I could name them for you. Actually, here they are. Interestingly, the first, I believe, was Georgia. The South is pretty solid, with the exception of Mississippi and Arkansas. Missouri was the most recent. States outside of the South that have signed on include Indiana, North Dakota, Arizona, and Alaska. It takes 34, so we're 12 down, 22 to go. And the stated purpose of our application is to propose, is to call a convention so that amendments could be considered that, number one, impose fiscal restraints on the federal government. Fiscal being the operative word. If it has to do with money, it would be fair game. It would be in order for such an amendment to be proposed. Fiscal restraint on the federal government was the first, is the first of three purposes for which we're trying to call a convention. The second of the three purposes is to limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. In the 10th Amendment, there are the words enumerated powers are found. The founders intended that the federal government should know very specifically from the Constitution what it was that they were authorized to do. That it was authorized to do. The the defense of our country, carrying the mail, etc. The point was anything that wasn't enumerated was to be the purview, the jurisdiction of the states. And through liberal judicial activism over the course of 242 years, the Constitution, which can fit in your coat pocket, now would require a box that weighs 10 pounds, it's 2,000 pages long. It's the annotated Constitution, and that contains all the judicial interpretation that people call the Constitution today. We're trying to call a convention to consider amendments that limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, and get them out of those areas of our life that are not enumerated for them to be in. Education, healthcare, as a common. The third of the three tenets of our application is to limit the terms of office of federal officials, including members of Congress, quote, unquote. Term limits. I think you all are quite well aware that the consensus opinion is that about 80% of Americans think that would be a good idea. About 80%. But that 80% does not include about 95% of the legislators in the Mississippi legislature, who are all opposed to term limits because of their fear of the impact that limiting the terms of office of powerful committee chairmen in Washington would cut off the flow of money back to them, that would limit their ability to do projects in their district that get them reelected. Consequently, my team last year, after taking the counsel of our legislative strategist, decided to delete that third tenet from the Mississippi application. And when we did, the legislators in the halls of the Capitol in Jackson began to talk to us. In fact, they warmed up appreciatively. They would not have anything to do with us as long as we were promoting something that included the words term limits, or the idea of term limits. And we had to make a decision, we did make a decision to compromise what we really want to accomplish, which is all three of these things, in order to become one of the states that passed the resolution calling on the Congress to call the convention. So we deleted term limits from the Mississippi application. Legislators got very open to us at that point. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I will assure you that when this comes to pass, Mississippi commissioners will go to the convention wherever the Congress says that the first meeting of that convention is to happen. Mississippi legislators will go to that convention, and when, not if, but when a term limits amendment is proposed, the Mississippi delegation will have to sit on their hands. They will not be able to participate in the debate or the vote for a term limits amendment. That's the price that we chose to pay in exchange for the possibility of being one of the states that calls on the Congress to call the convention in the first place. I'll remind you that to pass an amendment in a convention of the states requires the approval of 26 of the states, with each state having one vote. Okay? So the fact that Mississippi is not available to vote yea on a term limits amendment is hardly likely to prevent a term limits amendment from passing. I also will tell you that I don't have specific information about this, but it's my understanding that Mississippi is not the only state that has had to take this action. There may be others. So that's the background of what we are trying to accomplish. The legislature would choose commissioners to go to the convention, and those commissioners would be under under instructions from the legislature as to how they are to conduct themselves, what they are to get involved in, and they are under the authority of the legislature. The state of Indiana, this is an interesting little aside, the state of Indiana passed a companion bill following their passage of the resolution, making it a felony offense for a commissioner to the Convention of the States to act out of order. So if Indiana, when the convention happens, a commissioner from Indiana goes to the convention and tries to submit an amendment to do something to the Second Amendment, all of the other Indiana commissioners will be deputized and authorized to arrest this guy and call for a state trooper to come bring him back to Indiana for trial, prosecution and trial. Interesting, maybe a little over the top, but a good story and true, okay? The primary red herring against the Convention of States by those who oppose us is this idea of a runaway. And I want to tell you, and time doesn't permit me to give you chapter and verse, but there is less of a chance of a runaway convention than there are. Put it this way, there's more danger with a runaway Congress than there is with a runaway convention. And we got the runaway Congress now. Now, Laura asked me to come and tell you about, quote, what happened to us in the Senate. The map over there with the states in green showing who's passed, there's a donut hole in the middle, and it's Mississippi and Arkansas. I took that as a personal affront, a personal challenge, and we're trying to make Mississippi join the others that have passed. It is my great pride and privilege to tell you that on March 22nd, House Concurrent Resolution 56 passed in the Mississippi House of Representatives by a vote of 76 to 42, with 4 Democrats on board with us. We enjoyed a resounding victory in the Mississippi House, March 22nd. This is a result of the efforts of a team of about 50 of us, some more active than others, but about 50 volunteers playing assigned roles statewide. But more importantly, much more importantly, about 12,500 Mississippians who have signed our petition, who have liked us on Facebook, and who are in touch with their legislators. My colleague Bill Smith was commenting just during lunch that we had legislators ask us to call off the dogs. I've gotten enough calls. I'm in. Please cease and desist. I'm so proud of our statewide support and response of our people to our appeals, our calls to action. So we had a glorious victory on March 22nd. And we were halfway to becoming the 13th passed state. And by the way, that legislative victory in the House of Representatives in Mississippi is the only legislative victory in the United States this year. Missouri passed in 2017. That was the last state to pass. We passed in one house in 2018. It takes both houses. Okay? So the 22nd, man, it was the best of times. 76-42, we were on a high. We got shot down the next day in the Senate Rules Committee. We failed to pass out of the Senate Rules Committee to the Senate floor. Let me profile the Senate Rules Committee for you. Keep me honest on time, okay? The Senate Rules Committee is comprised of 5 members. It's chaired by Senator Terry Burton from Newton. Terry Burton has on his committee 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat. 2 of those Republicans were sponsors of our bill, of our resolution in the Senate. So we had every reason to expect that those 2 would be in support of us. And his practice in the Senate Rules Committee, and perhaps this is across the legislature down there, where there's a tie in his committee, he breaks the tie. If there's not a tie, then he doesn't vote. We were okay with that. That sounded like a good way to run a railroad. So we expected there to be a 2-2 tie, and he had told us, not once, not twice, maybe half a dozen times, in the event of tie, I will cast a deciding vote in your favor. I'm on board. I'm for you. He said that to me. He said that to me and my deputy. He said that to me and my president, Mark Meckler. He said that to me and Senator Coburn from Oklahoma. He said that to me and Senator DeMint from South Carolina. He said it very clearly multiple times. He took a voice vote in a meeting that was shrouded with suspicion as to how it was announced and how it was attended or not attended, witnessed or not witnessed. They took a voice vote. He admitted to one of our supporters that when the vote came in, my head was down, and I didn't really see how people voted, but it sounded like 3-1 against to me. And folks, that's the way it went into the record books. 3-1 against. We have verbal and email confirmation from the one who voted for us, and we're quite confident that he's being truthful. That's Senator Josh Harkins from here in Rankin County. The other 3 members, we don't know how they voted. Needless to say, quoting Charles Dickens, it was on the 22nd of March, the best of times, on the 23rd of March, the worst of times, when we found out from our sponsor, Angela Hill, Senator Hill, that we had failed to pass out of the Senate Rules Committee to the Senate floor, where we had 27 of 52 senators pledged to vote for us. We were primed to win. There's no reason that that vote should not have been held. There's no reason that we should not be painted green over there. But that's what happened. And the citizens of Mississippi did not get heard in the Senate in March 23rd because in the Senate Rules Committee, Senator Burton said repeatedly to me and my sponsor the next day, me and my deputy, it sounded like 3-1 against to me. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to ask you if it, like what committee it died in.
Rules.
Yeah.
Senate Rules Committee. By the way, your comment about the Speaker telling you, show me 50 of my caucus members who are in favor, and I'll take it out of the House Rules Committee to the House floor, verbatim. He did exactly that same thing with us.
And you can get those in writing. Legislators will tell their constituents, and they will tell our bill authors, and then supposedly behind doors in private, they're saying they're not for it. However, they did that in a caucus meeting one time to Mark Formby when he was sponsoring our bill, and Mark called him on it. He said, "I challenge that," and all of a sudden Nathan Wells said, "Come back here and let's recount," and what do you know? They had none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, what didn't happen in the Senate Rules Committee on March 23rd was that no one called for a show of hands.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
These 2 people who come and presented today, they were working on people's business of the people of Mississippi. Anytime legislators who are signed on to conduct the people's laws, the bills, they are supposed to be allowing that to be an open meeting. So you have a bill that you're really fired up about, committee meetings.
Yeah.
Because that is the way you hold their feet to the fire. It's the people's business, it's supposed to be open to the public. You need to have someone there on that given day and bug the heck out of those chairmen to find out when those meetings are.
It's the caucus meetings that are not open to the public,
Right.
and they
There's
discuss.
a conference meetings between the House and the Senate. Conference.
No, she's
No,
talking
we've got
about
the House caucus, the House
House
Republican
Republican
caucus,
caucus.
and the speaker has all the Republicans come in, and they meet behind, it's private, and sometimes they discuss otherwise. I mean,
It's not right. They're doing the people's business. It should be open to the
So
public.
we should be able to be at the
We
caucus.
should be able to get a ballot initiative that says you can't do any of Mississippi's businesses. Anything, whether you're a caucus, your party, whatever. If you're doing the people's business, it's supposed to be open to the people.
I've summarized what happened in the Mississippi Senate in the document that's before me here. It was the best of times and the worst of times. Receiving a 76-42 vote in the House was exhilarating. It gave us huge optimism. We had every reason to believe we were about to become the 13th state to pass the resolution calling on Congress to call a convention of the states for a minute, making a major contribution to the national effort to save our republic. What happened on Friday the 23rd was a betrayal of trust. We were lied to repeatedly, using the same word, repeatedly. Either the much repeated promise of Senator Burton, who said, he said this 6 times, if you pass it in the House, I will bring it out. What does that mean? What do you think it meant? I'll bring it out of the committee to the Senate floor. He said that to us half a dozen times. He didn't do that. We took that to mean a floor vote. It could be that one of our sponsors flipped in that Rules Committee meeting. And we had 2 sponsors, and Harkin has documented that he voted for. The other, who's questionable, is Senator Tommy Gillott, down the coast. Sadly, we now have illustration that what passes in the Mississippi Senate is what the Senate leadership wants to pass in the Mississippi Senate. And we are sadder but wiser. And we are intent on doing battle again in the 2019 session, and between now and then, prepare so that we'll have a different story to tell at the conclusion of the 2019 session. My personal conclusion at this point is that Senator Gillott did in fact cast the deciding vote against. I can't prove that, but I believe that's what happened. He was a co-sponsor, but in so doing he cost us the privilege of becoming a pass state. Whether he did so wittingly or not, I cannot say. Whether he was somehow enticed or maneuvered into voting against it or not, I cannot say. By the way, I had no reason to expect either Senator John Horn, Democrat, or Senator Gray Tollison, Republican, to vote for us. So I expected both of them to be no's. I was expecting a 2-2 in the Rules Committee. But it sounded like 3-1 against to me. My head was down, so I'm not sure who voted which way. Whether our resolution failed in the Senate Rules Committee as a result of some nefarious action on the part of leadership, I cannot say. I can't make a statement like that. But what I can say is that neither my deputy Bruce Cook nor I thought it necessary to vet the position of a sponsor who had repeatedly over time told us he was in favor of what we were doing. And then in the committee meeting, perhaps flip-flops. Senator Gillott. So we now know to reconfirm the support of key legislators before a vote. We now know to try to attend committee meetings under open meetings law, and we know not to expect leadership support in the House until we have passed it in the Senate. We had a nice meeting with Speaker Gunn when it was a couple of days later. And he was complimentary of our efforts. But the gist of his comments to us was, I told you so. I told you you weren't going to pass it in the Senate. And so don't come back to the House asking me to use our time on your resolution again until you have passed in the Senate. So that's where we are. And it is our plan to initiate this in the Senate. We've got stellar sponsors. We love our sponsors. Dan Eubanks in the House and Senator Angela Hill in the Senate. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
So, instead of doing a voice vote, could the sponsor have been, or the head of the committee, could he have been said, I'm going to take a formal vote and record and tally who voted who?
Yes.
So he could have done that, he just refused to do it, or?
I don't know why Josh Harkins didn't call for a show of hands.
Yeah.
I don't
Because
know
it
why.
makes the chairman mad.
I don't know why the chairman didn't. I mean, that's parliamentary procedure, I think.
Right.
And I think either the members or the chair could have done so to clarify, get another attestation of how people were voting. That didn't happen. That was a sad oversight on somebody's part. It's part of the whole story. I wish it had that. Question? Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Would you be interested in collaborating to find somebody to run against Terry Burton?
I cannot and will not be espousing any political position as a convention of states.
So y'all don't get involved in elections and.
Well, it's a thin line, Mary Jo. As a Mississippi citizen, I am perfectly free to do whatever I choose to do and put on a Chris McDaniel shirt and go and sit in the crowd and, wave my hands. But I better not have a convention of states hat on. And it's a thin line.
Yeah.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
talk about that just a little bit, because it's important. There's so many things going on in this country to divide us. There's so many factions that are trying to get us divided. So, I believe you're saying, you correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, we got to find some places where we all agree, and that's why this meeting is supposed to be here today. Now, numbers matter. Numbers matter. And they are the perfect example of that, because they're having people call them and say, call off the dogs. All right, that's what matters. When you read our Constitution, it says that when any official business is being done, it's supposed to be recorded. Am I right, Jeff? It's supposed to be recorded. So we don't have any proof that it was recorded anyway. We have a say-so. Did they deliver a conference report?
There wasn't a conference.
The Rules Committee confirmed.
I haven't seen any piece
That's
of
right.
paper.
So therefore, that's part of the demands that we do have. That's what the Constitution says you're supposed to do to conduct, public business. So that's something that we need to all use. And the numbers thing is just, it's in anything else you do. That's why we have unions collaborate, and they get what they want. We don't have enough people who are independent-minded who will collaborate the way unions do. That's a very, very, very important fact. So, there's a way you can find a friend who lives near Jackson doing your business. Nudge your way into those reports. Make them call you and say, call off the dogs.
I will assure you all that we have plans well underway to put enough grassroots pressure on the leadership of the Senate to convince them that it is politically advantageous for them to support us.
And 2019 is a statewide election.
Yeah, yeah, and we're gonna play fair, we're gonna play hard. May I appeal to you all to go to our website, conventionofstates.com, and get yourself educated there if you need to know more about what we're doing. We have a Facebook page. If you haven't signed our petition, I would ask you to do that. If you would like to be more involved, rest assured that would be welcome. You'd be welcome with open arms. And I'll close with this piece, this tidbit for you. Our president, Mark Meckler, will be the guest of Mark Levin on Life, Liberty, and Levin, Sunday night, August 19th. That will be informative, and that will crank up the enthusiasm nationwide. Mark Levin has got a big megaphone. Thank you very much for your attention and your interest in this.
How many of you have smartphones? I know there's one person in the room that does not have a smartphone. This is the fun part of the meeting, but I'm going to tell you all a little bit of stuff